Hi there, my name is Samantha, and I'm 29 years old. 2 years back, I tied the knot with Mark, who is genuinely the kindest and most wonderful soul I've ever encountered. He has this way of making every day feel special with his warm heart and silly jokes. However, my relationship with his mom, Debra, or as I refer to her, my mother-in-law, isn't as smooth. From the beginning, it felt like she was set on not liking me. I understand she's protective of Mark, her son, but sometimes her actions go beyond simple concern. Debra has a knack for causing trouble under the guise of innocent mistakes, aiming to push your limits while making it look like you're overreacting. We've all met someone like that, right? Well, she's that person in my life, and since she's my mother-in-law, avoiding her isn't an option. I was brought up to speak my mind and confront issues directly, which is quite the opposite of Mark's gentle nature. He loves that about me, though, saying it's what drew him to me in the first place. We're a classic case of opposites attract. With a background in psychology, I'm pretty confident about people's intentions, and it's clear that Debra's actions toward me are not out of love. Our strong personalities clash, which was evident from our very first meeting. She remarked about my eating habits in front of everyone at a dinner, saying, "Samantha, don't you think it's time to stop eating so much?" The table went silent, everyone too shocked to speak. I was utterly embarrassed, a feeling shared by Mark and his dad, George, who couldn't even look up, likely feeling secondhand embarrassment. Mark, though embarrassed, was quick to defend me. He confronted his mom about her inappropriate comment. Debra tried to backtrack, claiming she meant no harm and was just looking out for me, mentioning how she noticed I had gained weight from photos Mark showed her from my younger days. This moment solidified the tension between us, showing the challenging dynamic in our relationship with Debra. Despite Debra's claim that she didn't mean any offense and was only offering advice, I struggled to keep my composure. This was my first time meeting Mark's family, and I was eager to leave a good impression, especially since Mark means the world to me. I managed to bite my tongue for the first time in a while, responding to her with a polite smile and a thank you for her unasked-for counsel. However, as time passed, these awkward situations didn't just continue. They escalated both in frequency and intensity. I had hoped that once Debra saw how much I loved her son and recognized my good intentions, she would ease up on the critical remarks. Yet, it seemed to have the opposite effect. Meanwhile, my relationship with my father-in-law, George, blossomed. He's truly a gem, and it's clear Mark inherited his kindness from him. Despite growing closer to the rest of Mark's family, including his childhood friend Larry, who's practically considered a second son by Mark's parents, Debra remained the sole holdout. It felt as though she had something against me for reasons I couldn't understand. Yet, I was overwhelmed by the warmth and acceptance from Mark's family and friends, including his extended family and Larry, making me feel truly loved and supported. This support was a constant, even leading up to our wedding day, which Debra unsurprisingly tried to disrupt. She attempted to make the day about herself, insisting on unnecessary changes and creating drama. She even argued about my hairstyle, wanting it to mimic hers from her wedding day. In a moment of assertiveness, I thanked her for her suggestion, but firmly stated my preference for my hairstyle. This was a reflection of the ongoing challenge of balancing respect and assertiveness in the face of Debra's attempts to undermine me. During the wedding preparations, Debra's remark about my looks caused a collective gasp among the bridal party. However, this wasn't my first rodeo with her blunt critiques, so I wasn't as taken aback as one might expect. She tried to soften her comment immediately, veiling her critique with a backhanded compliment, suggesting I could look better. She added that she saw parts of herself in me, calling me a vibrant young woman. Despite claiming she was more attractive at my age, she conceded I had my unique beauty. My father-in-law intervened, putting an end to Debra's harsh comments for the day, yet the sting and resentment lingered within me. This wasn't like me. I was known for my vibrant and outspoken nature, but Debra's continual negativity was beginning to wear me down. I knew something had to change. 2 years later, at a significant family dinner hosted by Debra at the house where Mark grew up, it was clear she had something important to announce. Despite my initial suspicions about the sudden dinner invitation, I was curious about the news. As we gathered around the table, Debra seized the moment to share her plans, revealing she had arranged a trip to Puerto Rico for her upcoming birthday. The announcement was met with excitement and gratitude. Everyone was thrilled about the trip, eagerly expressing their enthusiasm. However, just as the joy peaked, Debra dropped a bombshell, stating bluntly that I wasn't included in the plan. This unexpected twist left everyone, especially me, in disbelief, questioning the fairness and intention behind such an exclusion, especially since it seemed out of sync with the family's initial reaction to the Puerto Rico trip announcement. Just when I thought things couldn't get more bewildering, Debra let slip that she had actually gone through the trouble of buying me a ticket for the family trip, only to cancel it last minute to avoid any extra fees. This revelation left me puzzled and hurt, stirring a mix of emotions in everyone present. Amid the tense atmosphere, Debra tried to justify her actions after much coaxing, finally admitting her reasoning for excluding me from the family event. Debra explained that as she's getting older, she wants to spend her remaining years surrounded by those closest to her heart, and regrettably, she didn't see me fitting into that circle. Her blunt admission sparked a wave of disbelief and disappointment. Accusations of disrespect flew when she suggested that I wasn't really part of the family because we weren't related by blood. This argument didn't hold up for long. As Mark pointed out the inconsistency in her logic. If the family was strictly blood-related, then Larry, Mark's childhood friend considered family, shouldn't be invited either. But of course, Debra had always had a soft spot for Larry, calling him a precious part of the family, unlike me, whom she still viewed as an outsider despite my marriage to Mark. The situation escalated until I found my voice, firmly saying no to leaving the discussion, capturing everyone's attention, including Debra. I confronted her, openly acknowledging the tension and her evident dislike for me over the years. I accused her of narcissism, pointing out that her behavior hadn't gone unnoticed by anyone, including me. Debra's response was to caution me about my tone and choice of words, reminding me I was in her house. This exchange marked a turning point, highlighting the ongoing struggle and the need to address the unresolved tension within the family dynamics. Standing my ground, I declared that my departure was imminent, but not without sharing my final thoughts. I turned to my husband, whose eyes reflected frustration and disappointment at the unfolding scene. Honey, I love you more than anything, and I've tried so hard to be part of this family. But it's clear your mom will never see me as part of it, no matter what I do. I think you should still go on the trip. Despite everything, she's your mom, and that bond is important. Don't worry about me. I'll manage just fine on my own. I then faced my mother-in-law, catching her off guard with my words. And as for you, it seems you've forgotten I'm not just going away. I love your son, and that's not changing. You may not want me here, but I'm here to stay. It feels like you're fixated on me, always trying to push me out. But here's the truth. I'll always be around, even if you're trying to escape me in Puerto Rico. Her response was a mix of shock and anger, threatening a slap for my boldness. But I wasn't done. Your obsession with undermining me is baffling. I've always treated you with kindness and patience, more than you deserved. But I've had enough. Exclude me from your trip. Deny me as family. It doesn't change the fact that I'm here. I'm here for Mark, for George, for Larry, but not for you. At that moment, it seemed my words had finally left her speechless, her usual retorts failing her. With a silent room behind me, I bid farewell to the family, leaving my husband with a kiss on the cheek. As I headed for the door, Mark offered to drive me home, unwilling to let me leave upset. I reassured him, please don't worry about me. I love you and I appreciate everything, but you have a trip to plan. With that, I stepped out, leaving behind a powerful silence, carrying with me the strength of my convictions and the love I held for those who mattered. As I prepared to leave, Mark reassured me and reminded me not to leave my purse behind. Right, my purse, I remembered, having left it in the kitchen. Heading to retrieve it, I encountered Debra there, presumably taking a moment for herself after the intense confrontation. Her presence was almost expected after such an emotional exchange. "What do you want?" she snapped, clearly still reeling from our earlier exchange. "I'm just here for my purse," I responded, trying to keep the peace as I prepared to leave. Debra, however, was in no mood for niceties. "Make it quick. I want you out of my house," she retorted, her voice thick with anger. As she stormed out, leaving me alone, I couldn't help but mock the absurdity of the situation silently. Reaching for my purse, my eyes caught a glimpse of a piece of paper lying beside it, written in Debra's familiar handwriting. Initially, I thought it might be details about the Puerto Rico trip, fueling a bitter curiosity about what I was being excluded from. Picking it up, I began to read, expecting to find a travel itinerary. Instead, the words were a heartfelt message to Larry. "Dearest Larry, you have always been like a son to me, and I love you dearly." The letter revealed a depth of affection for Larry, almost as if he were her child. Reading on, the letter took an unexpected turn, revealing Debra's feelings of estrangement from Mark, her biological son. She admitted to feeling a closer bond with Larry than with Mark, suggesting a shift in her maternal affections that was startling. The revelation that Debra might harbor more affection for Larry than for her son, Mark, was baffling and raised more questions than answers about the dynamics within their family. As I delved deeper into the letter, my astonishment grew with every sentence. It was clear this letter held significant revelations, and although it wasn't my place to have stumbled upon it, I couldn't deny the sense of urgency it instilled in me. The more I read, the more I realized the importance of bringing its contents to light. After finishing, I found myself pacing the kitchen, wrestling with the weight of what I had discovered. It dawned on me that the people who needed to hear about this letter were all gathered here, under this roof. It felt like a pivotal moment, demanding action. Before stepping out to confront the situation, I revisited the letter once more, ensuring my mind wasn't playing tricks on me. The words hadn't changed. The letter held the same shocking revelations as my first read-through. With a newfound resolve, I entered the dining room, immediately catching the attention of two sets of eyes. George, attempting to extend an olive branch, expressed his apologies for Debra's behavior and reassured me that I would be included in the Puerto Rico trip, attributing Debra's actions to a temporary mood. "Don't worry, I'll talk to her," he promised, hoping to smooth over the tensions. "George, I appreciate your concern, but there's something more pressing that everyone needs to know," I replied, cutting to the chase. "This is especially important for Mark to hear." The room tensed up, with Mark and Larry showing visible concern, possibly fearing I was at my breaking point, ready to end my marriage due to Debra's unrelenting behavior. Mark knew all too well the strain his mother's actions had placed on our relationship, yet our love had always been stronger than the challenges we faced. Noticing Debra's absence, I inquired about her whereabouts, learning she had retreated to her room, nursing a headache induced by our earlier confrontation. "She said she needed a nap," George explained, hinting at Debra's tendency to prioritize her rest, especially when upset. With Debra temporarily out of the scene, I realized this was my moment to share the letter's contents with the family, potentially reshaping our dynamics and understanding of Debra's actions. The revelations within the letter demanded attention, and with Debra absent, it was time to bring the truth to light. Debra's penchant for eccentric and often disruptive habits was no secret to me, so her decision to retreat at such a critical moment sparked my frustration. Despite the urgency of the situation, George and Mark encouraged me to share what I had discovered, especially given Mark's rising anxiety over the suspense. Reluctantly agreeing, I explained the context of my finding before unveiling the letter itself. While I was gathering my belongings, I stumbled upon something quite shocking. I started, unfolding the letter to share its contents with the room. As I read aloud Debra's words, her declaration of affection for Larry, her diminished love for Mark, and her intentions to revise her will in Larry's favor, the room's atmosphere thickened with disbelief and tension. Debra's letter painted a picture of deep-seated resentment towards me, blaming me for the perceived rift between her and Mark. She detailed her plans to bequeath her entire estate to Larry, excluding her biological son, due to the supposed wedge I had driven between them. The letter concluded with Debra expressing her enduring love for Larry, referring to herself as his second mother, and inviting further discussion on the matter. Upon finishing, I was greeted by a storm of emotions. George seemed on the verge of tears, grappling with the weight of his wife's words. Larry was visibly shocked, likely never expecting to be placed in such a position by someone he regarded as a second mother. Mark, however, was the picture of rage, struggling to process his mother's harsh betrayal and the unfounded accusations laid against me. The revelation not only exposed the depths of Debra's animosity, but also threatened to upheave the family dynamics, casting a shadow of uncertainty and hurt over us all. Debra insisted she was innocent, accusing me of fabricating the whole story. "Oh, you think this is all made up?" I countered, barely concealing my disdain. Her attempts at denial were futile. The evidence was clear, and the letter spoke volumes about her true feelings and intentions. Mark and George, once hopeful for reconciliation, realized the depth of Debra's malice and made a firm stand. "Enough, Debra. There's nothing more to say. You've brought this upon yourself with your actions," they declared, sealing her fate to face the repercussions alone in Puerto Rico, an opportunity for self-reflection she desperately needed. "But I'll be alone," Debra lamented, her voice laced with a sudden realization of her impending solitude. "Perhaps if you weren't so unpleasant, people would actually enjoy your company," was the cold, hard reply she received before the call ended. The moment the screen went dark, a collective sigh of relief filled the room, quickly turning into laughter as we recounted the absurdity and Debra's shocked expression. Her plans had backfired spectacularly, leaving her to confront the loneliness her actions had wrought. Despite her numerous pleas, George remained firm, promising a serious discussion upon her return to set new boundaries for their relationship. Debra's demeanor shifted dramatically from her usual arrogance to frantic apologies, a change that surprised everyone. Mark, too, made it clear that any future disrespect would lead to permanent estrangement, a boundary he was fully prepared to enforce. Larry also reconsidered his approach, realizing his kindness had inadvertently encouraged Debra's behavior. Left to face the consequences of her actions in paradise, Debra found herself in a precarious position, her relationship with her family hanging by a thread. I reached out to her, not with sympathy, but with a clear message. She needed to earn forgiveness, and it was her responsibility to repair the damage done. Her pleas for me to intervene were met with a firm refusal. This was a situation of her own making, and she had to face the outcomes alone. As of now, Debra is still working to mend the strained ties with her family, a testament to the lasting impact of her actions. Whether she has truly learned from this experience remains to be seen.